right, so this is the biggie. I'm going to add sermon notes to ProPresenter. All right, so first thing that you are going to have to just kind of accept is that the pastor typically sends your sermon notes at like 7:45 or 8 o'clock, and our first service starts at 8:30. So just get over it, get used to it. It is what it is. All right, so I'm going to minimize myself and show you how to find those sermon notes. So anytime that Chris or whomever is speaking that Sunday is speaking and they have sermon notes or they have scriptures that they want you to put on the screen, they are going to send them through email to Bridge Sermon Notes. So let's just start a new tab. Let's pretend you just opened up the internet for the first time. We're going to come to Gmail. And Gmail should always be logged in to Bridge Sermon Notes at gmail.com. And I will see, like, yep, Chris has sent us the sermon notes for this week. And he'll kind of tell you what scriptures he wants you to have ready. As you can see, he says, have these scriptures ready for reference, as well as Acts 14. And that typically means he wants the entire chapter. So the other scriptures that he's talking about are these in the parentheses. So when you put these points on the screen, you will type out like point 1, all of it until the period, and then also include in parentheses like 2 Timothy 2:15, and then have actually 2 Timothy 2:15 reference ready to throw up there for him to read on the screen. All right, so easiest thing to do for this is actually just to take your phone and take a picture of the sermon notes. That's what I do. Take a picture of that so that you can have it on your phone. So you don't have to like just be looking back and forth. You can look straight at your phone and type out what Chris wants in the sermon notes. So I'm going to come back to ProPresenter, and we are still on at the cross from adding in the Spanish versions here. So again, to get back to the main show, we're going to hit show. And this has all of the songs that we've already added. So to add in the sermon notes, the first thing that you're going to do is add in those scriptures that Chris wants. And you always will come to Bible. Click on the Bible tab. It looks like a little Bible with a cross in it. And then in Scripture Lookup, remember that main portion of Scripture that he is reading from today, or August 1st, is Acts 14. So we're going to type in Acts 14, and it's going to pull up the entire chapter, which is exactly what we need. And you're going to click this little Save As arrow right here, and then save to playlist. Find your playlist that you're working on. For us, that is 8/1/2021. And you'll see it just automatically pops in as Acts 1 or Acts 14, 1 through 28. And that's awesome. That's what we want. So I'm also going to go ahead and add in those scriptures that Chris had in parentheses beside each point, just so that I can have them right there. So we'll type in, what was the first one? 2 Timothy 2:15. And again, same thing. Add to, or save to playlist, 8/1. And then 1 Peter 3:15. Save to playlist. And then just for the sake of time in this video, that's all I'm going to put in there. But you will notice that it should put things in there in the order in which you typed it and saved it. If not, you can drag and drop these things very easily. All right, so let's go into Acts 14, 1 through 28. You're going to have to come back to show, get off of the Bible, come back to show, and then click Acts 14, 1 through 28. Since this is where Chris is preaching his main passage out of, this is where I always put the sermon notes. I will put the sermon notes at the bottom of these. And again, you will click the last verse on the main scripture, and then you can hit this little plus button, add new slide. So it's going to add a new slide to anything that you need it to, but since I am in that Acts 14, 1 through 28, it's going to add new slides there. So this just gives me some space. I typically leave a space in between the scriptures and then where I'm going to start putting the notes. And again, as you remember from our last video of adding Spanish, anytime you want to add something to a slide, you're going to have to go to Edit. So I'm going to click Edit, and it's going to take me to these edit screens. Again, I can click what I want to on the side, and I can click the text. You'll double click the text here, and then this is where you will type in those sermon notes for his points. So the sermon title, let's give a title slide first. Sermon title is "You Want to Be a Follower of Jesus Christ." And again, always double check yourself, make sure that you type it correctly. Also, make sure that Chris types things correctly, because he literally typed in, "You want to be follower of Jesus Christ." Sometimes you have to correct things, so make sure that you don't just copy and paste, like actually read what he sends you. Pray for these 5 gifts of grace. And then the scripture reference, Acts 14. You can add 1 through 28 if you want to, because you know that that is the entire chapter. My personal preference here is to make the title bigger, and you'll do that by highlighting, and then coming over to the right side of the screen, you will see all of this style has already been set. You can just change the font size. It's 42 typically. Let's try 60. Kind of actually, yeah, let's do this. And again, you can play around with that kind of font. So I like to leave the scripture reference kind of smaller and the title bigger, just so that it's in your face. All right, and then the next slide, we will double click text, same thing there. Let me pull up my picture again. Point number 1, and again, do include the number 1. Obedience to share the gospel of Jesus Christ when given the opportunity. And again, that verse reference was 2 Timothy 2:15. And that is all you have to do to add in the sermon notes. Again, you will add in each and every single point. I'm not going to go through all of that and show you how to do that, but that is how you add sermon notes. If you feel like you need to change the font size, like let's say that you come back to show and you click on this first bullet point and you can see it on the screen and it looks really small on the screen, like you're worried some of our older members might not be able to see it from the back, you will hit Edit again, come in, highlight all of that, and just change the font size. Again, let's try 50. And again, that might mess up some of your, like the way that it is presented on the screen. And you just have to manipulate where you want the breaks in the sentences, and that's fine. You have the liberty to do that. But you definitely want to make sure that it is big enough for our people with vision problems to see all the way in the back. And that is pretty much how you add sermon notes and add scriptures. Again, if you have any problems with these, you can always just call me or text me. My number should be in the book. But that is how you add sermon notes. All right, so I hope that this was helpful. One thing I do want to show you really quickly is to show. Come back to show. Again, just like our lyrics, like we learned when we put in lyrics, you're also going to need to add transitions for your sermon notes. So you'll find this little box with the greater than symbol, click it, and then fade. And you'll do that for every scripture you put in, and all of your sermon notes should work like that. Easy peasy. All right, stay tuned. Next video is going to be about how to add media, how to add the videos that we sometimes have at the beginning of every sermon.